Hello folks, Jost here. I would like to share with you today a quick video about, well, how I modded my old work chair into a general purpose VR flight sim chair. And I was using it in multiple VR flight sim games to protect my neck, especially during dogfights, while keeping the budget under control. With this thing, I am now able to keep track of my targets in the dogfight without breaking my neck physically from all the head rotations, or getting sick from trying to use any of the software solutions like VR Necksaver. For those who are not aware, since most people have their HOTAS in front of them on a table, and there is a category of software tools that allows you to snap rotate your view left and right by a press of a button, but that solution always caused me to just lose track of my enemies at best, or outright made me sick, because I was unable to judge the modified and quickly changing angles from the snap rotations, and I ended up disoriented in a cockpit. Actually, this is kind of the same problem I always had back in my TrackIR days as well, with all the exaggerated angles it produced. But not anymore. As you can see right now on a few demonstrative videos I put together, I can now track my target in VR without any effort. Even as I pass them and they are suddenly on my side or even behind me. And I have to say, in the last month, I really feel this made me a more competitive pilot out there, as I can now finally use the boom and zoom and energy fighting techniques without losing my target after every pass. And the example videos I captured here, as you can see, that I can do vertical loops around my target and keep them in my sight continuously, which is something I could only dream about even back in my TrackIR days. Or I would have to sacrifice my neck in VR if the HOTAS was physically only in front of me on the table. I'm not here to brag. I do not want to even imply my solution is the best one for you. Everyone prefers something else. And I'm quite aware that in the flight sim community, my solution will be looking completely silly in the eyes of the hardcore simpit guys. My aim here is somewhere else. I wanted to put together something convenient, ergonomically adjustable, and universal even for non-flight sim games. And after it was all finished, I was quite surprised how competitive it helped me to become. So, just to keep this video short, let me show you the chair in detail next. I will assume you already have a rotating chair and a HOTAS. The main star of this chair mod is essentially something called VISA pole mount. This is a monitor holding arm meant to be mounted on a pole on one side and holding a TV or a monitor on the other side. These can be easily found on multiple sites like Amazon and others, but I put a link for the exact models I use down into the description of this video. As you can see, the clamp meant for the pole side can be mounted on a lot of places on a typical chair, holding on to anything that at least vaguely resembles a pole. And the opposite VESA mounting can be holding a piece of wood, or in my case a sheet of metal, where you can drill some holes to act as an adapter for your HOTAS. For the very first version of this chair, I used some light planks of wood from the local hardware store as an adapters. I later upgraded to a metal ones, the ones you can see on the video right now, but I needed some external help for that one because my attempts to work with metal ended up with something not really looking nice. So I bought these from a company called Vox Mount. Granted, the price is essentially on the same level as the VISA mounts, which effectively doubled the overall price of this project, but it's much nicer than my old wooden adapters that I did myself. Yeah, it's up to you guys. If you are a DIY person, it's probably better to do it yourself. In regards to keyboard and mouse, I also got a light piece of wooden plank to hold my keyboard. And because I'm cheap, I use the back plate of my joystick to hold my mousepad. But I'm sure you can figure out this part for yourself, for your HOTAS type, using some wood or metal sheet and a little bit of drilling. Unplanned benefit here is that the VISA mounts have a pivot rotation, which in my case enabled moving the keyboard sideways as a means to escape this contraption. Continuing on. expected criticism and one big recommendation. Firstly, before someone asks, rudder pedals are definitely usable with this chair. You just need to get them on a leash, so you don't run away from them or they don't run away from you. But for me personally, I don't use them outside of Falcon BMS or occasional helis. But even there, I slowly stopped using them. Because for typical dogfights, I became so lazy that I just use an Xbox analog stick that I have mounted on my throttle as another mod. So you will not see me in these videos using pedals. And in time I got so used to this that even for helis, today I simply prefer to have a rudder control on my fingertips. Secondly, remember this is a rotating chair? So your potential to damage your USB cables is very much here, especially if you have kids running around like me. Therefore, definitively get a USB hub and mount it somewhere from the bottom of the chair. This way, any potential damage will hit the USB extender cable from the hub, and not the precious USB cables that are part of your expensive HOTAS system. Oh, and one more thing, while we watch some nice footage in the background. I actually started this idea for this chair because of a different game, one called VTOL VR. The VISA mount points were originally intended to hold a small 3D printed magnetic cup holder for a VR controller, which is called Protas VR. This small thing transforms your VR controller into a makeshift joystick. It kind of also works for DCS VR controls, but that's not the point. This small thing actually transforms the VTOL VR game experience to a new level, as it gives your hand a natural resting place for long flights. It makes you much more accurate. And for me personally, being a HOTAS snob, it actually helped me to enjoy the game, because holding my hand in the middle of the air somewhere to control a virtual stick was not really my thing. I needed something to be steady as a joystick. And afterwards I became such a fan of VTOL VR that I pretty much spent most of the last year exclusively in VTOL VR. And I spent like 300 hours just in a mission editor there. So if you are a VR flight enthusiast watching this video, please go try VTOL VR. I know some people are put off by the simplified graphics and blah 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 blah. They probably don't get the point. The VR controls mechanisms and the avionics and overall feeling of controlling the plane is on such a great level that DCS implementation team should go and learn something from that. So going back to some dogfighting footage, let me just close this whole video with some closing thoughts and a summary. All in all, mounting a HOTAS on a rotating chair gives you much more comfortable VR flight sim experience. And the VISA arm mounts are really a cheap entry point to try this out. If you are into VR flight sims, or space sims, or mech-based combat with HOTAS, or you are more for the pure VR games like VTOL VR, for me this chair was a game changer and definitely helped me get much more enemy players down, especially in the historical World War II dogfights. So if you have something similar or want to share with me what is your cup of tea when it comes to VR neck saver solutions, feel free to leave me a comment below. I do not promise I will respond, as I do not consider myself a YouTuber by any stretch of an imagination. This whole video is really just for me to brag to a friend who thought rotating VR chair is silly and I would be puking all over the place from the dizziness, and I needed to prove him wrong. But then I extended the video because the chair helped me get so many more kills in World War II dogfights that it deserved more. So in the end, I bid you farewell, enjoy flying wherever you are, and keep an eye out on your freedoms in these troubled times. My call sign is Drost, and I will see you out there.